are. Obviously, there's still some work that always has to be done in terms of, thinking about where they're going, how they're changing over the course of the new stories. But I just know who they are on a very deep, deep level. And that makes it extremely easy for me to write about them. And that is comforting. But at the same time, I never want to let that familiarity lull me into being lazy with them. I always want to be sure that what I'm writing is true to who they are, but also entertaining for the readers. And that means that the characters also have to change.
And so who are the characters that we drop in particularly on this book?
Well, we do get to see Aragon and Saphira. They're in the framing device for the three main stories. And then, spoiler alert, in the first story, we get to see the character of Murtagh a little bit, as well as a new character called Essie. In the second story, we get to see the character of Angela the herbalist, and the chapter from her point of view was actually written by my sister Angela, who was the inspiration for the character. And then in the third big story, the worm of Calcaris, we have a new character, Urgal, which is one of the races I created, an Urgal by the name of Ilgra, who I'm quite fond of her. I quite liked her character.
And so you mentioned Angela's written. Has she written stuff for Aragon or for the series before at all?
No. We've always collaborated behind the scenes. She's one of my early first readers and one of my editors, and I always bounce story ideas off of her. She is an excellent writer in her own way and has been working on screenplays and other projects in the past, but she's never published something in a novel before. So The Fork, the Witch, and the Worm was the first time we decided to openly collaborate. And what she did was very difficult, which is to come into a pre-existing world with characters that someone else has created and work within that setting. I would have difficulty doing that with someone else's work. So I didn't give her the idea for the story. She brought it to me, and obviously I did have some input as the creator of the world, but it was pretty much all of her work. And she has a really unique, wonderful voice as a writer, and I'm hoping people will get to see more from her in the future.
So did you then was it sort of a switch of roles for that one? Did you then take on the editor role, and what was it like to sort of switch that up?
Yeah, and it was hard because I kind of had to, and I'm not sure how well I did this, but I had to force myself to back off a little bit because, of course, the character in the world, it's my baby. They're my babies, and I'm very protective of them, and I have very specific feelings about what to do in writing, but those are specific to my style and my approach, and I had to learn to back off a little bit and let Angela do her thing, which worked really well for the character.
And thinking back to when you wrote those first few novels and now, would you say that you're a very different writer?
Yes and no. I think that the big themes and emotions I'm drawn to and the ideas I'm drawn to are all the same, but technically I am a much, much better writer. When I was starting out, if I wanted to write a scary scene or a romantic scene or a tense scene, I might have been able to do it, but it was about a 60-40 and then later about a 60-40 chance of whether or not I could do it or if I was going to not succeed. These days I'd say I have an 80 to 90% chance of pulling off whatever it is I'm trying to pull off. And that just comes down to having a clearer idea of what I'm trying to accomplish and also just being a lot more technically skilled on a line-by-line basis.
And so is that part of the craft of just putting the words together? Is it a vocabulary thing? Is it what elements go into becoming more skilled?
It's craft, and that comes about both from, just writing more and then also getting editing over the years and learning from the editing. When you're writing over time, you solve the same problems again and again and again and again. And you also make certain mistakes again and again and again. And the way that an author chooses to solve those specific problems, as an example, how do you move a character in and out of a room? How do you structure dialogue? How do you describe things? What is important to tell the readers? The ways that you devise to solve those problems end up becoming your style. Your habits become your style. And that just takes time. You see it with authors like Stephen King is a perfect example. Stephen King has an incredibly assured voice as a storyteller. And that's something born from both who he is as a person and also his long, long experience as an author.
And so for you, with the first book, when Aragon came out and when it was, it was published and it became a bestseller, a massive success, does that as a writer give you an extra boost of confidence? or does the confidence?
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.